All right, let's get straight into this. Andrew Tucker, welcome to Andrew Tucker World. What's going on, all my great people? What's going on, all my boxing fans? So let's get straight into this. We'll start with Canelo Alvarez. We'll start with Canelo Alvarez. We're going right here. We're right here in box rec. Right here in box rec, and I'm gonna start. I'm gonna start at a certain point in Canelo's professional boxing career. And I'm just saying, and I'm just no disrespect to no fighter, but I'm just gonna point out every fighter, right? Every fighter that pretty much were known, whatever whatever respected city, the state, city, region, part of the world, whatever. For every fighter that was known to a certain percentage of boxing fans, right? That Canelo defeated. Um, and of course those two fights he lost could have arguably be three fights he lost. He may have lost. We had three in total. I shall say. So I go up right here and I go to Jose Miguel Cotto. A solid victory, whether people know who he is or not. I paid a little bit of attention to around that time to Jose Miguel Cotto. Okay. And Canelo beat a very solid fighter. May not be a popular fighter. You know, may not have been known to a lot of people or boxing fans, or may not have, to a certain extent, may not have had the popularity or in a certain part of North America. Well, North America, maybe South America, and maybe other places, but a good amount of people knew who Jose Miguel Cotto was. Canelo defeated him. I believe giving Jose Miguel Cotto his first defeat, if I'm not mistaken. Right? But I know he was pretty much even at that particular time against the younger fighter in the younger fighter in Saul Canelo Alvarez. It was most definitely a challenging fight, and I have to honestly say Canelo won by via technical knockout. Congrats on him beating a veteran. No excuses with the age and nothing like that. I ain't making no excuses. Jose Miguel Cotto stepped in the ring. He had a training camp just as well as the young Canelo Alvarez. Not making no excuses. He stepped in the ring. You know, could Canelo make a slightly been a sharper fighter? And also along with skill, you know, and younger. But at the end of the day, we're not making no excuses. Okay, that's what we're not gonna do. Luciano Osulo Kulo. I can't be jacking his last name up. I believe also was a solid win for Canelo, whether people knew who he was or not. You know what I mean? I believe Canelo gave him his first defeat, if I'm not mistaken. You know, the veteran Carlos Boldemir, very dangerous monster, dangerous fighter, power, to technically sound counterpuncher. You know, can be rugged, slugger at times, but listen, brawler. That was a solid win for Canelo Alvarez. Because if you had one veteran that was going to challenge him and is going to really test him, to see where he's at, see where his little young self was at, Carlos was one of those guys. But Canelo went in there and showed not just how skilled he was and how dangerous he was, but how smart he was, the way he finished him. And that's Carlos Manuel Boldemir. Okay. He went up against another veteran in Indu, stopped him. You know, I'm sorry, that was actually a solid fight too, and I think Canelo won that fight. Yeah, I see it. Canelo won by unanimous decision. That was a solid fight because Indu was also an experienced veteran, and Canelo won by unanimous decision because it was a type of style and a fighter, a caliber of fighter where people know him or not. He might be known in certain parts of the world. Part of the world he's coming from, in certain other little regions. But guess what? He tested and he challenged Canelo, whether people know who Indu is or not. You know, it was a good certain percentage of the boxing world in certain parts of the world that knew who he was, and even some was saying around that time that he was going to challenge Canelo. Matthew Hatton, tough, tough veteran fighter. Ryan Rhodes, we knew Canelo was going to win that fight. A lot of us knew Canelo back then. Canelo was going to win the fight, and Canelo did. He did that. Technical knockout. Ryan was solid. Was a solid veteran, and he made it competitive to a certain extent. You know, Alfonso. A lot of people knew Alfonso Gomez was going to lose the fight, but he came to fight. He pressed the attack, came and did his best, but came up short against the talented, very skilled, young, dangerous fighter in Canelo Alvarez. Right. Kermit Cintron, we talk about a very solid, rugged veteran, technically sound at times. Dangerous counterpuncher, monstrous inside fighter. And the thing is like Kermit Cintron was that guy around that time. You know what I mean? Canelo came in, 5th round technical knockout. I was shocked. I was surprised because that was going to be supposed to be another big test. And to a certain extent, Kermit Cintron came and challenged him in the first couple of rounds. Canelo made proper adjustments, showed explosiveness, elusiveness, showed smart, showed that he's a smart, calculated fighter, along with explosiveness, hand speed, and power. And then get technically sound at times to be smart, to break a fighter down. It was just always beautiful to watch, even back then. And he defeated a veteran in Kermit Cintron. So he got Shane Mosley. Hey, we ain't making no excuses about age and all that. Shane came and he tested Canelo Alvarez. He came and tested. Canelo had no choice but to win by the unanimous decision because the younger fighter was up against an experienced fighter that gave him most definitely a hard time in the first couple of rounds. Canelo made the proper adjustments, showed how skilled he was as a young boxer puncher, technically sound boxer puncher, counter puncher, inside fighter, dangerous at times, dangerous, explosive brawler. Canelo showed that he belongs. He belongs. And Shane came along, the veteran, living legend Shane Mosley came along and he tested the kid. He came and tested that kid. He tested the kid. Okay, so that's a boom, a Hall of Famer right there. You know what I'm saying? On his record, Josecito Lopez, dangerous, solid veteran, came and just basically a dangerous boxer puncher, that very dangerous, technically sound inside fighter. And Canelo, it's times Canelo came and made it a war with him. And then he separated to show how smart of a dangerous boxer puncher he was with defeating Josecito Lopez. Some people felt Canelo Alvarez lost against Austin Trout. Maybe it was like 2 rounds he got hurt in that may have separated the fight and gave the fight to Canelo Alvarez as he edged that fight, winning a unanimous decision over a very highly skilled pure boxer puncher in Austin Trout. Elite level sharpshooter, counter puncher in Austin Trout. Canelo most definitely, came and showed, that he can do some things. He's just not just stuck to, you don't just look at him when it comes to one style or anything like that. Canelo came and he conquered, he edged. Some people could have considered it a split decision either way. Some people felt unanimous decision for Austin Trout. Some people most definitely had it with how the judges had it, unanimous decision for Canelo Alvarez. I feel in a very close fight, either SD or unanimous decision for Canelo Alvarez. He came and he did that. First difficult style to really challenge him and push him to prepare him for Floyd Mayweather Jr. Canelo came and he tried his hardest. He tried his best. He came and he tried to do what he tried to most definitely compete with the elite level, superior, highly skilled fighter in Canelo. In Floyd Mayweather Jr. Even at the age at the time, at 36 years old, Floyd was just too highly skilled, too smart. The ring generalship, ring IQ, crazy. Just the explosiveness, the timing, the footwork, the movement, upper body movement, the footwork. Just Floyd was just a scientist. He was a boxing scientist. He was a fighting scientist in that ring, and so the level, as far as levels of experience against certain caliber opponents, but he just naturally athletic, naturally gifted, master with was trained by masters of boxing and imitated a lot of masters growing up, Floyd Mayweather Jr. And so a lot of people felt that Canelo was going to destroy Floyd due to one age, due to they feel he slightly wasn't the same fighter. Canelo had everything it takes to beat Floyd, and two advantages as far as not just the being stronger, bigger and stronger, but the power, and then on top of that, they just feel like Floyd was going to be able to push him, keep the kid from coming forward in ways to work his way on the inside, because they felt at the time he just as fast, younger, and sharper than Floyd Mayweather Jr., but is smarter and far skilled. Floyd separated to show the difference, but he fought, win or lose, he fought Hall of Famer and Floyd Mayweather Jr. He came back with a chip on his shoulder, losing to one of boxing greats. Came up short. He came up short in that fight. And they gave Floyd a majority decision in that fight, winning a majority decision over a superior elite level young fighter in Canelo Alvarez, and then basically went on with a chip on his shoulder to knock out Alfredo Angulo, a solid veteran. He knocked him and destroyed him out. I mean, he destroyed him and knocked him out, which a lot of people knew was going to happen. Canelo had several advantages over Alfredo Angulo that we knew what was going to happen, what was going to be the end result, right? Erislandy Lara, he goes up against another similar style to Floyd Mayweather Jr., and he basically struggles. Some people felt he lost that fight to Lara. Very close, competitive chess match, war at times chess match, more of a chess match, and it's basically a stick and move type of fight when Lara placed beautifully, timed Canelo, boom, made Canelo work, made Canelo get on his feet a lot more, get on his toes a lot more, and stick and move, try to create the openings, press the attack Canelo had to do at times, to try to trap him to get in certain body shots, boom, certain head shots. A good percentage of shots was mainly to the body, was being blocked to the head by a offensively sound, elite level fighter within Erislandy Lara. So some people feel Lara won, some people feel Canelo won, just basically slightly outlanding Lara, lightly edging by 2 rounds to win a unanimous decision. But it was just that close that Canelo won by split decision, meaning that it could have either be a draw, Lara split decision, or unanimous decision, or Canelo split decision in a lot of people's eyes. But they felt also Canelo could have won the fight unanimous decision or split decision. Some people was content with, or should have been a draw. And to see a rematch, no, because some people felt that Lara doing a lot of running and didn't want to really engage too much, a whole lot. But I think Lara was surprised that the younger Canelo was able to keep coming, and even within within a 12-round fight. And I strongly believe, that Canelo was trying to press the attack to really get the knockout and really just make a statement. And Lara just had to show him that Cuban style, had to show him when it comes to sweet science, that particular Cuban style of setting them up and boom, setting traps from the outside. But in times, inside out movement was crazy. And some people felt he run and survived, and surprised that Canelo, boom, still strong going into the 12th round, literally pressing attack. But both fighters was in great shape. Then Canelo has a chip on his shoulder because hearing what people were saying about the Lara fight, and he goes in against a monster, very strong, dangerous boxer puncher, a slugger, technically sounds slugger in James Kirkland. and separates to easily boom, just viciously knock him out in the third round knockout, not technical knockout. I said knockout. You know, and we showed then. Canelo showed us then, right then and there, that he was a threat in the sport of boxing, but he was also that guy in the sport of boxing. And so they came at him. They was like, well, we want to see you fight this guy, fight this guy. He comes against another legend, Hall of Famer, and Miguel Cotto, veteran fighter at the time, and it was a challenge, another learning experience, another challenging fight, and competitive fight, and he ends up getting in a very good, entertaining, epic fight between two skilled warriors. Miguel Cotto comes up short, losing to Canelo via unanimous decision. And I think that fight prepared him and got him ready for the Amir Khan fight, which is a veteran in Amir Khan, great fighter, when like a highly skilled fighter in his time, and was loved and appreciated by the boxing world from over here in North America and over there in the United Kingdom, where he's also one of the best fighters coming out of the United Kingdom, one of those highly skilled British fighters making a name for himself over here in the States, right? And so he most definitely goes up against Canelo, challenging himself, coming to a certain weight where people feel like, I don't know, it normally take several fights, they like to always say, before really fighting a natural bigger guy within his weight class. And so Amir Khan was doing good the first couple of rounds. Some of us felt just only getting hit with certain power shots. It was going to be only a matter of time. But showing how Canelo was so smart, making smart, beautifully executed adjustments to then set Amir Khan up with set him up with an explosive big shot to knock him out in the sixth round. And so you talking about a very solid, highly skilled fighter in Amir Khan. Stepped in the ring, and the day he met one of the best pound for pound fighters in the history of sport, Canelo Alvarez. The day he met him, he found out that there is, true enough to a certain extent, weight classes for a reason. And just remember and know, there are weight classes for a reason, but there's also highly skilled fighters just like yourself within that weight class, in which is considered bigger fights, but fighters stronger and bigger especially when they rehydrate. So sometimes, weight classes are for a reason, and sometimes moving 2 weight classes up can most definitely be, you can think it be this working your favorite times just based on skill alone, and you can make the weight and you're comfortable at the weight. But there's a lot of other things you got to take into and take into consideration. I'll get that, I understand it, you know what I mean, I really do. I've been watching boxing for a long time, 30 a little over 30 years, right? Participated, as an amateur, as a team, still mess around here and there, sparring, stuff like that. So I just know on that professional level is even intense. And so guys have to move up, come back down, move back, respect to those guys, you know what I mean, honestly. And so, boom, he goes on to fight solid, undefeated fighter in Liam Smith, another great fighter coming out of the United Kingdom, one of the Smith brothers. Liam Smith, undefeated fighter. Canelo his first defeat via 9th round knockout. And Canelo is really showing out. He goes and dominates and knocks out Julio Cesar Chavez Jr., the son of the legendary Julio Chavez. And he goes and he dominates. He dominates this big guy. You know what I mean? And it's some things that I just don't want to really say when it comes to Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. He started out in his career, and then I don't know if he started out dominating and doing his thing, but I don't know It's something that he was dealing with more as far as on a, mentally. You know what I'm saying? Going through some, I don't know, and it just wasn't pushing as hard enough. But Canelo came in and gets a bigger, stronger, and explosive monster. But something in that fight, I don't know what was going on with Julio Cesar Chavez Jr. But I wish we could have been that version that was in previous in his career. Would have most definitely made the fight even more entertaining with Canelo. Gennady Golovkin come along and you talking about a living legend. Comes along very dangerous, very 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 dangerous. In this particular situation, it was unification, and so my thing is this. I strongly believe Gennady Golovkin won the first fight, unanimous decision, because it was a good competitive fight, close fight. Gennady Golovkin separated a little bit. First, another challenging, just other than Canelo fight, and Lara and Austin Trout and a few others. This was another dangerous opponent for Canelo, but it's another highly skilled elite level fighter other than Canelo himself that he went up against, and this is a monster that he was going up against. And a lot of people was worried that Canelo could most definitely not just only get defeated in this fight, but Canelo could most definitely get knocked out in this fight. They felt like it was a high threat but a lot of people believe Canelo was also compete. Had maybe one or two advantages over Gennady Golovkin. Triple G, and all I know when the day Canelo met Gennady Golovkin, and the day Gennady Golovkin stepped in that ring with Canelo Alvarez, was a beautiful thing to see. It was a beautiful display of boxing. It was everything that we want in a boxing match, right? Canelo comes up short, but they gave it to Canelo. Respect. It was a great fight. They gave us finally what we've been asking for, right? Canelo comes back, clearly convincingly wins the second fight. It was close still, it was still close like the first one, but this one's even more closer. This the rematch, and Canelo edges that. Comes back in the third, come back to the third fight against Gennady Golovkin, slightly dominates to win a majority decision. You know what I mean? Canelo has a chip on his shoulder. People still not satisfied, right? Comes and stop a bigger guy, taller, maybe longer reach. It comes and stop, Rocky Fielding. You know what I mean? He stops him, third round, technical knockout. Sweetheart, make sure you shut the door and lock it, okay? Thank you. Love you. And, so he comes and stop a big guy. I mean, this guy is tall, as like 6'5" or something, but the longer reach. But I was saying, Canelo's going to stop this guy to his body. He's weak. So he stops Rocky Fielding, giving him his first defeat, an undefeated fighter within the weight class, beating him by a third round body shot. Boom, third round technical knockout. Right? Dropping him a few times and dropping him the final time to stop him for the ref to boom, wave it off. Then he goes up against another experienced veteran, a very skilled fighter. There was another challenging fight for him. Daniel Jacobs. He moves up to like the 175 with the bigger monsters and bigger killers. Within Sergey Kovalev, he knocks him. So an impressive victory over the Crusher, monster, bigger, stronger fighter. Hits hard, and he's technically sound as well. Then Sergey Kovalev moves up, gives him a tough fight. On Sergey, challenges Canelo. Then Canelo pulls away, sets him up, explosive body shots, headshots. Properly mixing up his attack, defeats, and end up leading to a vicious knockout over Sergey Kovalev. Moving up, he goes against Callum Smith, right? He goes against Callum Smith, one of the best fighters at super middleweight, and he goes in, boom, captures titles. Avi Yildirim, he ends up that situation. Canelo proves he's a monster against another explosive monster. He goes in and beat a solid fighter, and Billy Joe Saunders, giving him one of the British owned. Billy Joe Saunders, coming out of the United Kingdom, a great fighter, one of the best fighters coming out of the United Kingdom, goes in and giving him his first defeat in a very monstrous performance. as he separates to stop, Billy Joe Saunders. He stops. Like Canelo is a beast. You understand? Like he's a monster. I could never take nothing from him. I'm witnessing all these fights. He goes against another undefeated fighter, highly skilled fighter, champion. He goes in another within the same weight class. He beats the Avni Yildirim. He beats the Billy Joe Saunders. I mean, just capturing titles, right? He beats the Caleb Plant. He boom, and then it solidifies and become undisputed. Then it becomes undisputed at super middleweight. And they saying, oh, this little guy is coming up. Canelo always been big, nice size, always been swole, muscular. So he was getting comfortable at these weights. Busting, trying to kill himself to make the days of 47 and 54 and then 55 at catch weight. The 160. Listen, Canelo was killing himself because he's a natural 175 pounder. Honestly, if you want me to be honest. So 168, he fills out perfectly well, but he goes up against the guys that rehydrate. They may come in a little bigger. It's a little, they're taller, longer reach, and these guys are highly skilled as well. That shows you how great of a fighter Canelo Alvarez is. Beat a superior pure boxer puncher like a Caleb Plant to become undisputed. He comes up short against Dimitri Bivol, another highly skilled fighter, where he lost a unanimous decision. He lost. Dimitri Bivol defeated him by unanimous decision at night. And he was undefeated fighter coming in, and at that weight class, and Canelo moving up, back up again, to fight Dimitri Bivol at 175, and so. It wasn't always just size. Maybe the reach could slightly have gave Bivol the edge, but it's based on skills, elite level skills, that Canelo came up short in that fight due to the skills and explosiveness of Dimitri Bivol, and not being stagnant, waiting on Canelo. He's standing his ground. He's going to exploit some things that he knew that other fighters could have took advantage of, but they was too fearful of Canelo power and ferociousness and effective aggressiveness and that monstrous, demeanor when he's coming in. He's boom, boom. He's, being highly technically skilled at the same time. And so Bivol stood his ground, you know what I mean? And Canelo came up short against another across from him, another highly skilled fighter across from him. You understand? And so, for the third time, Canelo with a chip over his shoulder, he fights Gennady Golovkin for the third time. Once again, he wins unanimous decision over Gennady Golovkin. Clear victory for him, but it was still a good competitive fight between these two warriors, two monsters, in Gennady Golovkin and Canelo Alvarez. So he redeems himself with going in a rematch and doing a trilogy with Gennady Golovkin to redeem himself, that he felt that he wasn't to fight the first time, when a lot of people arguably felt he didn't. He goes in with another solid fighter. Luke comes up short because come up short because he's trying to get the knockout over this dangerous, rugged, very solid, dangerous 175 pounder in John Ryder, which I knew he wasn't going to stop him, probably drop him, once or twice, but I knew John Ryder was the type of gang opponent, and I just know Canelo was so highly skilled and so tough and so strong that I didn't see him getting knocked down or knocked out by John Ryder. Highly skilled, boxer, puncher, technically sound brawler, slugger, technically sound at times counter puncher, but technically sound inside fighter. Like, I knew John Ryder was going to push Canelo. I knew that was the type of fighter that was going to give us a fighter, and based on his style, that was going to give us an entertaining fight, give us a very solid fight. The same thing when we got from the undefeated fighter, Jaime Munguia, Canelo giving him his first defeat. Jaime Munguia challenging Canelo for the undisputed titles right there at 168, I believe. And correct me if I'm wrong. Then Edgar Malanga, another undefeated fighter, challenging for the titles. Gives Canelo a great fight, epic fight. The Jaime Munguias, the Edgar Malangas, we seeing great fights with these two warriors, these two monsters, And so I take nothing from Canelo Alvarez. I take nothing from him. Styles makes fights. Some people arguably felt that he lost 4 times within this amazing resume. 4 times they felt he lost. You're right. And we go up against Terence Crawford, a fighter that people can never say, well, he lost this fight. We can never say it. He lost this, came up short. Then they say they give along the same lines. Well, he never fought nobody. You know what I'm saying? That's why he's undefeated. That's why he's still undefeated, because he haven't fought nobody. You know, who has he fought within these weight classes? Who has it? Who is these guys? Nobody know who these guys were. Nobody knew. You know what I'm saying? He fought nobody. You know what I'm saying? He could have fought this fighter. He could have fought that fighter. Oh, what happened to the Keith Thurman? Oh, why? You know what I'm saying? What happened? You know, why he didn't fight Danny Garcia at 140? Why he didn't fight this fighter at this and that? Not knowing that when you have a advisor, right? You got a manager. They play a major role in the fighter's career as well. Promoter, yes, too, and his staff, his team, his employees, right? Networks play a major role, and there's gonna be some guys that you barely gonna know and see, right? So fighter do have say so, they do, and people supposed to be doing and handling everything for them and doing things, making sure that they're accommodated properly, right? True enough. But then the fighters get to a position where they sign a contract, meaning that they are contractually involved with this company that they don't own. Oh my goodness, they don't own it. You know, you can start making, you know, a nice amount of money, putting in the work. You know, doing what you do best, and you know, putting money, and then your start rises based on certain high end performances, based on high end, performances, based on certain events, based on there's a lot of things also being promoted, marketed properly. That's the promotion company's job. Promotion company. Promotion means to promote and advertise properly your fighter. If a fighter can do the work himself, motherfuckers, don't you think, now the fighters got social medias these days now. But if the fighter can promote himself, why he needs to be tied to a promotional company other than just getting paid and making sure that they guide him properly, make sure they set him up in positions, and put him in certain situations, and put him in certain positions where he can be entitled to be worth a certain amount of money. So the algorithm is kind of like the promoter, right? If the algorithm don't put you out there, you can be shadow banned, right? If the algorithm don't put you out there, then you ain't gonna get famous. You ain't gonna get no traffic. You ain't gonna get no audience. You ain't gonna get no crowd. But if the algorithm, aka the promoter, put you out there, aka algorithm, aka the promoter, put you out there, then guess what? People gonna know who you are. People gonna know who you are. They have in ways they can set up, boom, 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 to get an audience, to draw an audience and a crowd in, to know who you are. And sometimes, yeah, they be on the fighter, they're based on their performance. Yeah, a lot of these things, I take all that into consideration. All that is factor. I look at all that. But when a fighter is clearly dominating, and dang, this fighter's getting this, I ain't gonna go to race. I'm gonna totally dismiss that. I'm just gonna totally dismiss favoritism. I'm going to totally dismiss how some can get blocked over others, and one is doing the same as the other. Maybe it's the skin tone of no. I'm not gonna go there. I'm not gonna get into none of that. All I'm gonna say is that sometimes when a fighter want to get certain fights, right? He will have to sometimes become his own boss in a way where he's going to have to work with a certain individual advisor, have a nice, decent attorney that can work with this advisor, or a manager, you know what I'm saying, that can work with this particular advisor, a promoter, and that believes in putting them on certain stages. And because you're going to have people that's going to, in one area, in one land, that's going to support you, in one group, in one area, in one land, that's not, based on certain things that I'm not going to get into. Canelo, impressive resume. When it's all said and done, future Hall of Famer, Hall of Famer, legendary fighter, one of the best to ever do it. Forgive me, all right? So, you're not going to get, and I think I remember this fight, you're not going to get certain credit when it comes to Terence Bud Crawford for fighting the Andre Voorhees, right? And giving him his second defeat. A very solid fighter at the time. Not too many people knew him. A small percentage of people knew who he was. You know what I'm saying? Crawford is not going to get a certain credit for fighters like that because nobody knows him, right? Nobody knows who that kid was. Nobody knew who that was. You know what I'm saying? Like they'll tell us nobody knew who Audrey Audrey was. I mean, Andre. I always be jacking his name up. Even back then, I used to jack it up, following a young Crawford, right? And this is at the time when he was at 135. When you got certain fighters that's going to be recognized based on what they accomplish, and sometimes you're going to have fighters that's recognized based on certain things, a certain audience and crowd, certain communities, certain environments that's going to support their fighters. And maybe, you have certain fighters that don't get the recognition that they deserve. Maybe you got certain fighters that's not going to get praised or that's not going to be looked at. And sometimes based on fighting style, sometimes based on performances. Yes, I look at that. I look at everything. But Andrei Klimov was solid, an undefeated fighter that some thought was going to beat Terence Crawford as well. He was a fighter they thought was going to beat, an undefeated fighter that was going to beat Terence Bud Crawford. That Crawford didn't have a chance against this kid. Crawford was dangerous. Crawford was solid, but Crawford was going to come up short against this skilled undefeated fighter at 135 and Andrei Klimov. And just go look it up. Neither here or there. And they thought he was going to struggle. He gets in there, defeats him, but it was a good competitive fight when Crawford was able to edge to win by unanimous decision. Solid fight. Same. And that fight prepared him for a slick, crafty British fighter that nobody knew who he was. Of course, because he's a British fighter and he's highly respected over there in the United Kingdom. And he's a British fighter with basically Scottish. A Scottish fighter. I apologize, guys. A Scottish fighter that was a champion, and there was a problem at that weight class for a lot of any and some of every fighter. So just because not too many people knew who he was in the United States, which boxing is a global sport, and last time I checked, a global sport. So just because he didn't even know who he was in North America. Or we could just say United States of America in North America, one country in this continent. Some people probably didn't know who he was in Mexico. I don't know. That's also in North America. Some people didn't know who he was in different parts of South America. I don't know. But I know a lot of people know who he was over there in the United Kingdom. Yeah, over there within that certain parts of Europe knew who Ricky Burns was. Yeah. In the world, boxing is a global sport, not just no American sport. Because if you're saying it's just an American sport, you're lying to yourself. You're lying to yourself. The biggest fighters sitting on the throne right now are not from America. Alexander Usyk, he's from America. He's fighting over here in and out. He's not from America. Tyson Fury fighting over here in and out, not from America. Joshua fighting over here in and out is not from America. Okay, I want us to understand. I want y'all to understand. Do you comprehend? Do you hear the words that are coming out of my mouth? In the words of Chris Tucker. Ricky Burns was challenging, tough. Crawford wins a unanimous decision in a very highly competitive fight. against Scottish owned. Eureka's Gamboa was a monster. Move up, move down, it didn't matter. He was a problem, stylistic nightmare for a lot of guys at that time. And if any guys is beating him these days, it's because he ain't the same fighter. And maybe because the age caught not just caught up to him, but there was a major decline. There was also some things going on mentally and physically in his life. And if he was at 100% of sharpness and there 100% mentally and physically over the past 5-6 years, a lot of these young fighters wouldn't have struggled and beat him. And they did. Congrats to them. No excuses. Because Eureka Gamboa didn't believe in himself. Because people, well, it's just the money, Tucker. It's just the money. It's just the money. Yeah, everybody want to survive and feed their family and invest to even make it even greater for themselves financially on a greater level, on a greater scale. I understand that. But Eureka's Gamboa was always that Gamboa was always that warrior that would fight any and everybody. And a lot of people thought he was going to beat Crawford. Not a handful of people, a lot of people, because they knew what time he was. You talking about an Olympian, nigga? A lot of people knew who Eureka Gamboa was, nigga. They thought Crawford was gonna get destroyed, dismantled against Eureka Gamboa, nigga. Probably one of the powerful fighters at the time, brother. You know what I'm saying? So Crawford comes in, shocked the boxing world. He wasn't just Eureka Gamboa though. He was against an experienced veteran and Raymundo Beltran. It was a monster and stylistically nightmare for anybody. And maybe some people on somebody else's resume would have probably came up short and struggled against based on style. Oh, let me get it. Hold on, I'll be right back. Yeah, that's right. Nobody knew who he was. Yeah, that's right. Nobody knew who he was. That's what it was. Nobody knew who Eureka Gamboa was. Nobody knew who Raymundo Beltran was. Yeah, nobody knew who Thomas Delorme, who was an undefeated fighter, also I believe was a decorated amateur. Nobody knew who Thomas Delorme, and we talking about not no Thomas Delorme that's fighting these guys later, all these years later in his career. Did he retire and come back or something like that? Correct me if I'm wrong. Did he retire, come back, or something like that? He ain't taking no excuse, because if he didn't believe he can beat some of these younger guys or beat some of these guys, he wouldn't have stepped back in that ring. They are fighters. They are warriors and gladiators. It ain't always about the money. Yeah, the bag is there. Yeah, the bag is needed. Trust me, yeah. But everybody got to survive, my nigga. But Thomas Delorme, yeah. Undefeated fighter. Crawford gave him his first defeat in the time when he was sharp as sharp can be, and sharp as sharp. Undefeated at the time. Yeah. Undefeated at the time, man. You know, Crawford goes in to fight and beat at 140 and destroy a caliber opponent and takes his title. And Thomas Delorme, if you knew who he was, then that means you really pay attention to boxing, and not just a little one corner of the earth. You North America, South America, Asia, Australia, Europe, Australia, Africa, Asia, North America, South America, all these countries, regions, lands, fighters from all around the globe. A lot of great fighters coming out of them regions and lands. We cover the sport of boxing, not just North America boxing. We cover the world of boxing. Yeah, that's the difference between some of us and y'all niggas. You know what I'm saying? Because if I don't know nobody, they gonna tell me, and we gonna do film study, we gonna do homework, and I'm gonna tell you what it is. I ain't gonna say, oh, he was a cab driver. You know what I'm saying? We got a lot of love, honor, and respect for all these warriors and gladiators that step in the ring. We do. Especially for the ones that's dominating on an elite level, and the superior ones that are known. And that's why we want to make sure the ones that's not known get the recognition that they deserve. That's our jobs, nigga. As media. Yeah, that's true enough, though. Goes on, gets another fighter with a nice amateur background. Undefeated fighter. I guess they don't know who he is either. They don't know who this guy was. decorated amateur, boom, professional as a professional, undefeated. Because they don't know who he was because they just like cover and only pay attention to look a handful of fighters probably over here in America, y'all. Yo, Deary John was a most definitely a threat, undefeated fighter. And he probably may have beaten some fighters on this on my other brother's resume we just got through looking at. Some other fighters would have most definitely lost to him. But I don't like to do all that triangle theory jump, man. I really don't. But yeah, you talking about an undefeated decorated fighter like Deary John. Come on, man. Henry Lundy, I knew he was gonna lose against Crawford, even though he was rugged and solid. And he can be a little threat sometimes when he's at his best and more disciplined. But he was a solid fighter. He was a solid fighter. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, a lot of us knew that he was gonna come up short against Terence Crawford. Henry Lundy was one of them type of fighters that beat you up in the gym, but come up short against that same fighter under them lights. And I don't know if it was just not being a fully disciplined at times. I don't know what it was, but if he was really 100% motivated and dedicated, you know what I'm saying? Like he will be one of those fighters that could have been really undefeated for a very long time. Maybe came up short within the years, couple few years after. And that's another, but I'm going to give him credit for that one because that was another skilled, dangerous, solid fighter right there at 140. Victor Postol. Nah, man, nobody don't know what Victor Postol is, man. Victor Postol was nobody, man. Victor Postol, who he beat? Who he beat, man? Victor Postol was nobody, man. Victor Postol, I promise you, on certain fighters on that goddamn resume, on certain fighters, box rec, when it comes to their professional career, it was a lot of fighters. I'm telling you right now, Victor Postol would have outboxed and destroyed on some of these top fighters' resume. Would have destroyed. And yes, we do know who Victor Postol is. If you don't know who Victor Postol is because you wasn't properly covering the sport, you was only sticking to like 5 famous names or popular names. Don't play with us, real boxing fans, man. Don't play with us, real boxing heads. You're not gonna get nowhere with us, bro. You can talk a good game, we're not gonna ever see it the way that it should, in a way that people don't need to be seeing it. People waking up. That's probably why more people gravitate to more of the real that's gonna really know of the know and really educate of the educate, and mainly gonna be the boxing historians and the boxing scientists and boxing doctors in this community. No disrespect to no boxing channel though. I digress. But John Molina, I knew Crawford was gonna beat him, but you talking about a rugged, dangerous inside fighter, slugger, technically sound slugger. I knew Crawford was gonna beat him. It's still a stylistic nightmare for some other fighters though. But Felix Diaz, a decorated amateur Olympian. Nobody knew who Felix. Hey, they don't know who Felix Diaz. So I say his name. Nobody don't know who Felix Diaz is. Nobody know who. They just gonna probably well he's the guy that beat Lamont Peterson. That's all he beat. Who else he beat? Who else has he beat? You know what I'm saying? They just like literally like disrespect the fighters, right? Don't even give great fighters credit for beating solid skilled fighters, right? They don't like Victor Postol. They don't know he was undefeated. Crawford outboxed him. You win a unanimous decision. You know what I'm saying? Then he knocks out John Molina, a solid veteran. Then he goes up and gets Felix Diaz, a undefeated Olympian professional fighter, and was no defeats and very solid skilled. Beat a few caliber opponents to land the fight with Crawford, and Crawford get into the position to fight him at 140. At his weight class, he's gotten to get really comfortable. But Felix Diaz was that guy was looking to pull off that upset against against another undefeated fighter in Terence Crawford, and you had two highly skilled undefeated fighters going at it, and a lot of people within certain that really follow the sport and truly pay attention to these fighters that don't always get the recognition that they deserve. But a good handful of people was paying attention to this fight, because when you got a free fight, you're gonna have millions of people tune in. I think Crawford for this fight got several million views. So I guess, dang, they saying they ain't know who Felix Diaz was, but guess what? They got several million views for this fight. When they fought in the Madison Square Garden, and I believe this fight was probably every bit about on HBO. I think at the time. Correct me if I'm wrong, but it got some decent views. You know what I'm saying? It wasn't no pay-per-view, and I guess you got to have pay-per-view and do terrible numbers. You know what I'm saying, to be popular. You got to be on pay-per-view and have great numbers to be popular these days. I guess free television. You know what I'm saying? Or they may have probably made you pay for a subscription at the time. No, I don't think they did. But you know what I'm saying? Free boxing. You know what I'm saying? You gonna have probably 5 or 6 million viewers tune in, and Felix Diaz versus Terence Crawford. Sure, it seemed like a lot of people knew who they was, having all them type of views. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And Crawford won that. He beat a caliber undefeated fighter. Whether people give him credit for Julius Ndongo or not, it was undisputed at 140. Come to find out, it was some people that had to let me know that certain fights couldn't happen. They wanted to build up certain fights. They wanted to delay certain fights. They wanted to make it be bigger than what it is. And Crawford was deciding that he wanted to continue to move along. He didn't have time to wait for other fighters and their teams to want to have build up a certain fight or whatnot. And then having to come up with all these terms and stuff. Fighters don't want to be robbed. So listen, I understand with one of my favorite Puerto Rican fighters with Danny Garcia. I understand that it's a certain amount of money that he was looking to make within that certain particular fight. It was just certain other fighters within the weight class that was looking for a certain amount of money. It wasn't on Crawford that his promoter at the time wasn't trying to offer these fighters pretty much what they feel they are worth, and wasn't accommodating them properly. And then their team was turning down and rejecting all types of offers and stuff like that. So y'all gonna make it always gonna pinpoint the fighter. Well, he didn't fight this. He could have fought this fight. He ducked it. No, my nigga. You need to go deep into knowing what's really going on. Crawford fighting within a handful certain killers. I refuse. He dodge or duck any certain names. No. And then Bob Arum clearly stated we missing Manny Pacquiao on his list. It's because Bob Arum, quote unquote, said he didn't want Pacquiao to get hurt. Bob, I have to respect him for that. Even though I feel that Pacquiao would have held his own, and it was another challenging fight for Terence Crawford that I would have loved to see. Win or lose, I love and respect both of those fighters, which Pacquiao being one of my favorite fighters in the history of the sport as a living legend. I love and honor and always will respect Manny Pacquiao. But yes, I totally agree he would have most definitely lost to Terence Crawford if they would have fought at that time. Trying so hard, Bud was trying to get away from Bob Arum just to get a fight with Manny Pacquiao, because Bob was not trying to give Pacquiao to Terence Crawford, because he knew what time it was, because he saw something that a lot of us saw at the time as well. Win or lose, you never know when a fighter what's gonna happen when two fighters step in the ring. Fighter sometimes can fight. Boxing sometimes can be predictable and unpredictable. You never know. Life is like a box of chocolate. You never know what you're going to get. In my Forrest Gump voice. You know what I'm saying? Crawford goes undefeated. Still undefeated. Goes and conquer undisputed. Couldn't get certain fights that he wanted to get. And certain fighters that he couldn't fight due to some interruptions and some not somebody not, you know what I'm saying, doing their job properly. But I digress, right? Quote me if I'm wrong, though. I'll be here. So Crawford goes on. People, he too small. Jeff Horn's too big. You see what he did to Pacquiao, which Pacquiao, I feel, won that fight in a close fight against Jeff Horn. But it's, in Australia, no disrespect to my Australian people, but I feel that I kind of knew what time it was when it went, after the fight ended. leading into the judges' scorings and stuff like that. I knew what time it was. No disrespect though. But Jeff Horn, he's too big, undefeated fighter. He's too rugged, too explosive, too dangerous, too rugged. At times sloppy. Sometimes just like to make you rough. Kind of remind you of Sean Porter. And no disrespect to Sean Porter, one of my favorite heavyweights in the history of the sport. One of my favorite welterweights. I'm sorry, guys, I'm tripping. One of my favorite welterweights in the history of the sport of boxing. And I love Sean, man. Explosive boxer puncher. And explosive boxer puncher, technically sound fighter on the inside, dangerous inside slugger, boxer puncher. I love Sean, man. One of the hardest working fighters in the sport and ever step in the ring. And I always appreciate Sean, what he's accomplished in the ring, what he was able to accomplish in the ring, his and how he contribute to the sport of boxing and made it entertaining, going in there, exploding on guys, roughing them up, beating them up, letting them know, hey man, I don't see nothing. I don't see none of that. That was my guy, Sean Porter. And before I get back to Sean Porter, so Crawford continues to go on. He defeated a bigger fighter at the weight class, rehydrated even bigger, at 147. And they said Crawford too small, where Jeff gonna run all over him. Some people knew better though, and said Crawford was gonna separate out boxing. In the way he handled, knowing that a lot of us knew that Crawford was strong, not just being a wrestler, but he just, back in high school. But we knew that Crawford was strong. The way he toting weights and stuff, he was just naturally just strong and powerful. Don't matter how small or big he is, he just naturally strong. You know what I'm saying? Get that strength from the gods. Get that natural strength from God. So he gets in there, manhandled Jeff Horn, beats him, destroys him, and leading up to a technical knockout. Same thing, he goes and knock out a veteran, undefeated at the time, and Jose Benavidez Jr. We're not gonna make no excuses, but it's some things I can point out on Jose Benavidez Jr.'s end that y'all ain't gonna know, and I guess nobody didn't know Jose Benavidez Jr. either, especially before the incident, right? So I get it. It's cool though. We gonna keep going. Crawford get in there and dismantle Amir Khan. Something was sad to see because Amir was one of my favorite fighters within the welterweight, and I think before moving up to the welterweight division, Amir Khan was that super or the light welterweight division. He was my guy. And I still have love and respect for Amir Khan. But to see what happened, and they saying it kind of was a legal blow. He could have continued, but I know if it would have continued, Crawford was going to lead to beating him by technical knockout like previous fight against Jose Benavidez Jr. He goes this against an undefeated monster. You talking about Olympian with a monstrous amateur pedigree and Mean Machine Kavalauskas. You know what I'm saying? Crawford, that was the style that most definitely I knew it was going to give him problems and threaten. Kavalauskas at the time, even leading up before Crawford, could have been dangerous for a lot of them welterweights. Probably have beaten a handful of them I just probably mentioned. So all I'm telling you is that never judge a book by its cover, because y'all tend to do that a lot, and y'all starting to look silly. And no disrespect to y'all though. But yeah, Crawford get up against another monster, explosive monster. Remind me of a smaller Gennady Golovkin, honestly, of a Madrimov. So Crawford goes in there and he destroys a guy of that caliber, right? Nobody knew who he was though, but I bet you where he was coming from, a lot of people knew who he was, where he was coming from, his regions and lands. Nobody knew who he was. I understand. Nobody ain't gonna know certain fighters is, especially when they new to the States. Some do though, because they watch the sport, which is a worldwide, global sport. Yeah, that part though. Yeah, so Crawford goes on. He stopped in a monstrous fight, in a great fight. Crawford ended up separating, digging down deep. Some people felt he even got dropped in that fight, even though I saw it was a slip, knocked off balance a little bit. But Crawford gets knocked down, and then he gets back up and destroys Mean Machine. Then he goes back, then he moves up and then destroys that Kyle Brook, giving him his first defeat. Kyle Brook, highly skilled British fighter, former champion, highly skilled British fighter. Kyle Brook, highly skilled. One of UK's own highly skilled fighter. Kyle Brook, caliber fighter with have beat beat some solid fighters, right? Listen, nobody knew who Cal Brook was. Nobody, Cal Brook wasn't the same fight. His fight was broken. His face was broken. He was already injured. They don't care if he was, even if he was leading up before the fight. It's gonna be a percentage of y'all that still ain't gonna give Bud credit. Who he was? Oh no, he was a bomb. No, he wasn't. No, he was not. And I'm not just saying because he did. And I'm not just saying that because I paid a lot. I literally paid close attention, to Cal Brook, and I'm talking about before, because I like to tune into the fight, to the sport globally, right? But even before he fought Sean Porter, I knew who Cal Brook was. Even before he fought Sean Porter, Gennady Golovkin, even before he fought, way before that, I was tuning in to certain fighters of the Josh Taylors and Cal Brooks. It was Amir Khan first for me. And even way before Amir Khan, it was certain fighters, man, that Zal Kazagi's, that was coming from over there. I was been tuning into, man. Y'all can be way late, but I just didn't start giving these fighters the recognition until I started to understand and realize that I gotta break this shield, because I gotta go and I gotta become who I really am, a real true boxing fan. And it was just them 30 years ago of my almost 40 years of living. And so Sean Porter, great fight while it lasts. Pushed Crawford, challenged Crawford. At times make it uncomfortable, made it difficult for Crawford. Crawford sometimes made it difficult, made it hard for Sean. Separated. In the fight, people felt he was slightly losing. Stops him. Stops a great fighter in Sean Porter. Then after that, beats a veteran, former champion, in David Evanesian. Then goes up to defeat a very monstrous, dangerous boxer, puncher, elite level counter puncher and monstrous boxer in Earl Spence Jr. To give him his first defeat in a very entertaining fight, and that separates to become a dominant performance for Crawford that leads to a technical knockout. Then he wins a unanimous decision of a fighter with a decorated, that could have beaten a lot of guys I just mentioned, right? He can beat a lot of guys I just mentioned with a beautiful amateur pedigree, participated in certain games, doing that beautiful amateur run, right? And comes up short with only professional fights because he stayed and participated in games similar like the Olympic routes, and then has a long amateur record. He's one of the Israel Madrimov is the Bivens of the world. As far as based on the games and the amateur pedigree, is the Bivens of the world, is the Vasily Lomachenkos of the world. He is the Alexander Usyks of the world. He's cut from that same cloth. Oh, we don't know who he is. He a cat drop. He a bomb. Nobody know who he is. I got some of my highest views off Israel Madrimov several years ago. It's in the archives. Go check the live commentary. Because I covered the sport the way it's supposed to be covered. It's a global sport. Terence, based on my analyzation, based on my observing and knowing why in 41, no defeats, 31 wins coming by way of knockout, why Terence Bud Crawford is one of the best fighters in the world pound for pound, it's because he is just that skilled, just that good. Certain fighters knew it. They played games. They blocked him out. They didn't want to set up they didn't want their fighters to take risk. and didn't want to accommodate a certain amount of money at the same time. They wanted to build the fight up to make it bigger, and wasn't even properly promoting and marketing these fighters. But fighters had to do it themselves by creating on social media certain audiences, right? Certain audience, and gravitating with their natives, and then giving us them entertaining performances, because it wasn't just always the performances and domination of how they dominate this fighter, dominate that fighter, how they finish this fight. It wasn't just that. It's just that in certain communities, they're going to celebrate their fighter, even if he having shady performances, and some going to really be supportive, and it can be more than support and love that's getting shown in other communities. That's also the issue. Canelo Alvarez resume speaks volumes, like Crawford's resume speaks volumes. And I'm not going to lie, his resume slightly edges Crawford resume on a certain caliber of opponents and legends that's on it that can prepare you for any fighter of any style, any caliber, that have shaped and molded Canelo to one of the best pound for pound fighters in the world, and one of the best fighters to ever step in the ring, to ever have lived. The same for Bud. This is a legacy defining fight. Any one of these guys can win. I just see certain tangible, certain attributes. I just see maybe two advantages that slightly separates one from the other, but I can be wrong. Canelo can dominate and beat Crawford. Give him his first defeat, and give him his first defeat by stoppage, technical knockout or knockout. Crawford can also give Canelo another defeat by technical knockout or stoppage. I don't see it. I just think Canelo, if Crawford wins, MD or UD or SD. But if it's SD, they don't give it to him. They give it to Canelo. If it's UD, they can possibly give it to Canelo. If it's an MD, they can possibly give it to Canelo. Crawford will have to make a statement, maybe with a knockdown or two. I don't see that either. Boxing is predictable and sometimes unpredictable. You never know. But I just know two highly skilled, elite level, superior boxer punchers that both are strong and powerful. It's going to challenge each other and test each other. More of the pure boxing might can separate when it comes to movement alone. Right? And maybe that movement is not enough. When that certain fighter get trapped with certain body shots, weird shots, awkward shots coming from certain angles that he ain't gonna see coming, like similar to via Israel Madrimov fight. Crawford knows he got to be on a smart and properly execute the game plan and make smart, educated adjustments. Proper adjustments, not too many mistakes against the explosive, dangerous counterpuncher like Canelo Alvarez that does an elite level job at setting traps like Crawford. Crawford knows that he can't take that, because Israel Madrimov is strong at 154. He's a natural 160 pounder as well. 68 pounder, 175 he can get there too as well. But if you thought Israel Madrimov was a big puncher, Canelo Alvarez is a bigger puncher, but also slightly a little bit more awkward skill wise. So Crawford knows he can't fight the same way he approached and what he was doing with certain things he was doing. With Israel Madrimov, he ain't gonna probably get away with Canelo. But I know he knows this already. That's why it makes this a great fight, and it's two of the best. And I just feel like I'm dreaming. It's a great fight into the separation of Crawford. And I'm just, when I'm feeling, when I'm seeing, I could be wrong. The separation of Crawford to slightly dominate. And I just see probably 8 rounds to 4, 7-5. But I can be closer. I don't know. And I could be wrong. But, yeah, man. Love y'all. And that's just my take. You got 2 elite level greats going at it. And it's going to be good. One-sided, you never know. But if it starts to become one-sided, I only can see who's going to separate. Yeah.